Hare Krishna. So we have some special guests with us today. I'll pan the camera around. Everybody can wave at the devotees. Yeah, fix your hair first. He doesn't have any hair. Oh, Gauranga Nityananda. Let's see. You can fix this up now, maybe. Well, let me just see. Tilt it up a little bit. Just a little bit. So you can see very much too. A little more. That's great. Hare Krishna. So I'm going to, because this is for our group, and I don't want to take care of you guys mostly, but also we have some friends who are here, and it's a little strange just to jumpstart with everybody and start speaking about Madhanaki Mahabhav and some of the topics we may speak about today. So let's just give a little introduction to the book after I say a few prayers, okay? Gora Graganya Gana Gotra Goloruharam Gauranga Guratama Gopyara Kopa Briksham Gopala Gada Ratidam Yati Singha Gora Govinda Deshi Kavaram Satatam Namami Uttama Adama Kichuna Bachila Jachiya Dile Kakola Kahe Premananda Hemona Gauranga Hridoya Dadiya Bola Bhaja Gauranga Kaha Gauranga Laha Gaurangera Namare Jai Jana Gauranga Bhaje Se Hoyamara Pranare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Yasyaiva Padambuja Bhakti Labhya, Prema Bidana Parama Pumata, Tasmai Jagan Mangala Mangalaya. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste. Madgavirapi Gopalan Sri Karyat Kripaya Jari Tadaiva Sambhaya Pidva Rishe Yustat Priya Janahan Shri Krishna Krishna Chaitanya Sasanatana Rupaka Gopala Raghunath Tapta Brajabala Bapahimam Vancha Kalpatarubhishcha Kripa Sindhu Vyaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I just want to say a few words like an introduction to this book, even though you guys online, you know already about this, but just for our friends here, just really briefly. This is chapter 4 of a book called Embankment of Separation. It's a collection of lectures that we put together of our Guru Maharaj just before he left this world. And we've added in some new chapters to it. I think in the new book, it'll be chapter 3, 4, and 5. The book itself speaks about how the prema dhara means the river, the flow. The flow of love, like a river, has two embankments, the side of union and the side of separation. So this book speaks about separation and speaks about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it was a contribution that Guru Maharaj wanted to make, I think, very much to ISKCON, because many times devotees just think They ask him who Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. They say he's the golden avatar, or they'll say he's the most merciful incarnation. He gave vegetarian restaurants. He taught us about reincarnation. They may say some kind of things like that. But actually, Gora Tattva, the understanding of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is the highest, most esoteric aspect of our philosophy. And Guru Maharaj really brought this out in this wonderful book. And it speaks about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but also his connection with Lord Jagannath and the position of Jagannath Puri and like that. So I'm going to read a little bit to review from our last session. Maybe I won't read that. But Guru Maharaj begins this chapter speaking about how Krishna Lila is Gora Lila. An intrinsic aspect of that is the associates of Mahaprabhu were associates of Krishna. And now they've come again with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And we spoke about that some in a previous session. In our last session, we spoke about how Krishna Lila and Gora Lila are non-different, and mainly from, I think it was chapter 19 of Adi Lila, if I recall, of Chaitanya Bhagavat, and how Mahaprabhu at Nimai is going to the village, and there's so many pastimes which are just like those of Krishna. And Brindavan Das Thakur says this is the same Krishna. So just understanding how Krishna Lila and Gora Lila are non-different. Guru Maharaj used to say that Gora Lila is a parishishta of Krishna Lila. Just like, let me get a book out, it'll be easier. Just like we put together this book, The Process of Inquiry. And we finished the book, and it's all Guru Maharaj's things, but there was something else that needed to be said. But it's not exactly part of the book, but it's something that needs to be said, so it's kind of part of the book. So that's an appendix. So we added some new appendixes to this in our last printing. That's a parishishta in Sanskrit. So Gora Lila is like a parishishta of Krishna Lila. It's part of it, but it's a little different because Shama Sundar is black and Gora Sundar is golden. So Guru Maharaj goes on to say, says that Krishna Lila is Gora Lila and Gora Lila is Krishna Lila. In Tattva, they're the same. Only one difference is there. In Gora Lila, the two bodies of Radha and Krishna are combined together. So in Guru Maharaj, she quotes from Chaitanya Charitamrita, where Kaviraj Goswami describes Radha Purna Shakti Krishna Purna Shakti Man Dui Vastu Vedanai Shashara Praman Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. That Srimati Radharani, her ontological position, her supreme position, is that she's Purna Shakti. She's the complete potency. And Krishna is Purna Shakti Man. He's a possessor of potency. Dui Vastu Vedanai Shastra Praman. And Shastra says that these two are non-different. In the material world, we consider that when a boy and a girl fall deeply in love or they get married, that their hearts are one and they're non-different. This really doesn't work like that so much, but that's a romantic idea. But that idea comes from Krishna Lila. And Kaviraj Goswami goes on to say that Radha Krishna Aichisada Eka Iswarup Lila Rasha Ashwaditi Dhari Dui Rup. That Radha and Krishna, they're one, but they've taken Dui Rup, two forms, for Lila Rasha Ashwaditi, to relish the pastimes of rasa. There's a beautiful song that I like to sing. Let's see, I have it right here. This is by the medieval poet Madhavi Das, and it speaks about this nature of Radha and Krishna as Mahaprabhu. So I'll go ahead and sing these lines by myself and we can chant Hare Krishna in response. Shamira Goravarana Let's just try and see if my fingers will remember it. Shamir, Shamira Gora Vana Eka Deha Pamara Jana Shamira Gora Vana Eki Deha Pamara Jana Ite Kore Esandeha. That now Shamira Gora Varna, one darkest complexion form and one golden complexion form, have become Eka Deha, one body. But Pamara Jana, those people who are fools and rascals, Pamara, Iti Koro Ishandeha, they don't have faith in this. They're filled with doubts about it. Sorabi Agora Murati Rasasar, Pakala Bhena Jaichi Phala Sahakar. The form that's become one, that particular form has a very, very wonderful fragrance. And Pakala Bhena Jaichi Phala Sahakar is just like a tree with ripe mangoes. And we have very wonderful ripe mangoes. It has such a wonderful fragrance. So he's indicating here, as Guru Maharaj also speaks in Embankment of Separation, that he says in one place that even if Radha and Krishna are there, we won't go there unless Gora is there. And therefore, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, whenever he established deities of Radha Krishna, he always established a deity of Mahaprabhu also. Not Gauranitai, but Mahaprabhu. Because Nitai is Balaram. And Radharani becomes a little shy around Balaram. But on the other hand, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahiyanya. He's a combined form of Radha and Krishna. So putting Mahaprabhu on the altar with Radha Krishna is just two different forms. There's a form of Radha and Krishna together, and there's a form of Mahaprabhu. It's also Radha Krishna. But Guru Maharaj said that when it's just Radha Krishna, it's like a green mango. It's not ripe. But therefore we want Mahaprabhu, then it's a fully ripened mango. And for Mahaprabhu, and the author of the song, Madhavi Das, is indirectly explaining this, that just like a ripe mango has a very nice fragrance. So ripe mango is golden colored, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and it has this wonderful fragrance. That fragrance is a fragrance of rasa. It's such a very, very sweet fragrance. And he says that Gopa Janamapuna Dvija Avatar. Previously, in his previous birth, he was a cowherd boy. But now Dvija Avatar, he's appeared as a Brahmin. Nigama Napaya I Nigudat Vihar. And that even the Nigama Shastras, even the very confidential Vedic literatures, they don't understand, they don't touch the secret pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. Prakata Korla Harinama Vakan, Nari Purusha Mukhe Na Suni An. Speaking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this combined form of Radha and Krishna, who he doesn't mention directly in the whole song. He doesn't say Chaitanya, he doesn't say Gauranga, he doesn't say Gora. He doesn't directly mention, which is also a kind of sweet way of poetry, when you can write some poem and you indicate something and everybody knows what you're talking about, but you don't directly label it. Oh, that's very, very nice. So Prakata Koila Harinama Akan. He's preaching openly the glories of chanting Krishna's names. And now that those names, Nadi Purusha Mukhi Nasunye An, all over the world, that's all we're hearing now from the mouths of so many men and women. Everybody's chanting the holy name. Kori Gora Charana Kamala Madhupan, Sarasa Sangita Madhavi Dasaban. So the author, he gives his name here at the end of the song. And he says that tasting this Gora Charana Kamala Madhu, this pan means to drink. He's drinking this nectar of the lotus feet, the sweet nectar of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Sarasa Sangit, this very sweet song, which is the essence of rasa. Sarasa Sangit Madhavi Dasaban. Madhavi Das sings this song. So this is our Gora Tattva, that Radha and Krishna are one, but they've become two. I'll read a little more from Embankment of Separation. Guru Maharaj says there's no difference between the energy and the energetic. Shakti, Shaktiman, Abhina. Right? Just like we say there's no difference between the sun and the sun rays. Right? If it's a dark, cloudy day, you say the sun hasn't come out. But it's not that the sun comes and lands right here in this house here, and everything will be burned to ashes. There's some difference, but at the same time, there's no difference between the energy and the energetic. So Srimati Radharani is Purna Shakti, Krishna is Purna Shakti Man, but Lila Rashe, Lila Rasa Asvadite Dhari Dui Rup. To taste these mellows, they manifest two bodies because it's sweeter. They have two forms. So in Braj Lila, there's two bodies. There's Radharani, the Ashray, and Krishna is the Vishay. Means the Gurmai explains this elsewhere that Ashray means the abode of love, and Vishay means the object of love. And there's a fundamental important difference between the two. The Priti Vishay, the object of love, is unable to understand the feelings and emotions and happiness of the Priti Ashray, the abode of love. In the same way that darkness can't understand the sunshine, or ice can't understand fire, or vice versa, or oil and water. They don't mix, they're opposites. But in Gauranga Mahaprabhu, these two have become one. Because Gauranga Mahaprabhu is Krishna, that's Priti Vishwai, but he's in the mood, Radhabhava Duti Sivalitam Nomi Krishna Sarupam, he's Krishna Sarup, but he's in the mood of Radharani. That's a very amazing thing. So these two, the Ashraya and the Vishraya, become one. The object of love, that's Krishna, and the abode of love, that's Radharani. Just as Krishna is Asamurdva. No one's equal to him, Asa Amurva, nobody's equal to him, no one's greater than him. In the category of being Bhagavan, of possessing all different opulences, being a Supreme Lord. Similarly, Srimati Radharani, in her quality of Priti Ashray, the abode of love, no one is equal, no one is greater than her. Even Krishna himself is not equal or greater than Srimati Radharani in those qualities. But now, these two have come together. And Guru Maharaj explains, Krishna assuming the mood and complexion of Radharani appears, that is Gauranga. This is the tattva, it's very deep and confidential tattva. And he quotes a verse from Narahari Sarkar, which I haven't been able to find. And I'm still trying, I've been trying to find a collection of his writings. Interesting person, for those of you who don't know, we mentioned Narahari Sarkar this morning. I don't know if you caught it maybe. He was the guru of Lochan Das Thakur. We told the story about the little boy who got married, didn't recognize his wife. His guru is Narahari Sarkar. Narahari Sarkar is considered to be the first biographer of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in the sense that he began writing songs about Mahaprabhu before Chaitanya Bhagavat or any other books. Narahari Sarkar was writing that. And there's a verse here which Guru Maharaj gives accredited to Narahari Sarkar, which I haven't been able to find. Anyway, the verse is Chaitanyam Bhakti Naipunyam Krishna's tu Bhagavan Swayam. Dvaya Prakasad Ekatra Krishna Chaitanya Uchate. That Guru Maharaj translates as Chaitanya is Krishna and Krishna is Chaitanya. There's no difference. But in Chaitanya, one thing is added, Bhakti Naipunya, the last limit of Bhakti. This is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He's Krishna himself, but he's come in the mood of a devotee. And it's a very, very deep thing, a very difficult thing to understand. Even in this world, as we've been joking and speaking honestly lately, the best jokes are ones that are honest. That even in our marriages, we can't understand. The husband can't understand the wife and vice versa. The parents can't understand the child. Or the child can't understand the parents, even though we're supposed to be so close. So to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is not a simple thing. The problem we have with understanding someone else is Atmavan Manyate Jagat. We think naturally everybody thinks the way I do, right? Of course. Right? The whole world just evolves around me. That's what people generally think. So when we think of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we tend to think of him in terms of ourself. How is that? We think of him as the most merciful. because that's what I'm approaching him. Please be really kind to me. I need some mercy. We think of him as being the golden avatar who brought the Hare Krishna movement, and that's because that's what I'm part of. And honestly, most devotees, that's about as far as it goes in the conception of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But my grandma's once commented, he said that if you want to understand Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, you have to understand Srimati Radharani. And understand the mood of Radharani is such a very, very deep thing. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he's come in the mood of a devotee. And as we often comment, just trying to get devotees to help them understand the mood of my Guru Maharaj and the mood of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and our previous acharyas. It was for that reason that he said we don't put a peacock feather on the deity of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's come in the mood of a devotee. And he doesn't, generally he doesn't accept direct worship. In the house of Srinivas Thakur, during the Asaprahara, the 21 hours, he accepted worship from the devotees and manifested his mood of being Bhagavan. But in general, we don't see that. He wants to enjoy the mood of being a devotee, because he's waited for a long time for this. And he's so very, very eager. He wants to know what it's like for Srimati Radharani to worship him. So now he gets to come in the mood of a devotee. He's Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam. So if we put a peacock feather on his head or put a flute in his hands, and we'll tell him, actually, you're Krishna. And he may say, oh yeah, that's right, I forgot. And then he can't taste that mood. And then also significantly for us, he doesn't give the same thing. He's no longer Mahavadanyaya avatar, because Srimati Radharani is a personification of Krishna's Kripa Shakti, or mercy potency. And generally, he has another, Parasya Shakti Vividaya Vishruyate. He has multi-potencies. One of them is the Icha Shakti, his desire potency. And generally, the Icha Shakti covers and hides the Karuna Shakti, because otherwise everybody would just get mercy, and there's no point in him saying, Yaya tam mam prapadyante tam sataiva bhajamyam. I reciprocate wherever everybody comes to me, because Srimati Radharani doesn't do that. It's said that once in Barsana, there was a newly married couple who came from Delhi. They just got married a few days before, and they decided to go for darshan in Barsana. And so they arrived there in Barsana, and somehow they had a big argument. And the wife became angry. It happens sometimes. And she walked out. And the husband was lamenting and crying for his wife. His wife's name was Kishori. And so he started running around all over Barsana, calling out the name of his wife, Kishori, Kishori, and crying. Now, Kishori is also the name of Srimati Radharani, one of her many names. And when she heard this fellow crying and calling out her name, she called for Lalita, and she said, hey, you go find out who's calling out my name. And so Lalita went and looked, and she came back and said, he's not calling out your name. He's calling out the name of some bag of stool and flesh and skin, his wife. And Radharani said, no, but he's calling my name. You're in Barsana. You call for him. And she gave darshan to that man. It's a local story. Barsana, they tell. So that's the mercy of Srimati Radharani. It's ahoitiki kripa. It has no motivation for it. So that's the mercy that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gives. When he's Bhagavan, when he's God, as he says in Bhagavad Gita, there's certain rules. And he reciprocates with you according to however you approach him. But when he's in the mood of Radharani, then he's Mahavadanyaya avatar, because he's in the mood of a devotee, of a bhakta. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is known as Bhakti Naipunya, or the last limit of bhakti. So Guru Maharaj goes on to say that in Gauranga Mahaprabhu, we find two opposites in one container, the Sambhog and Vipralamba. This is inconceivable. Sambhog means union, and Vipralamba means separation. And mostly in the rest of this session today, I want to speak about these two principles, because they're very important principles for Gaudiya Vaishnavas that we should understand them. It's a little kind of postgraduate stuff that we're going to be speaking about. So fasten your safety belt. But we should at least know, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said in one place, that such things exist. Maybe it's not really practical for me, but at least I should know that such things exist, because then I'll have some idea what to aspire for. So in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there's Virudita. We spoke about this in a previous session in chapter 3, how there's two opposite things placed together. And he says you'll only find this in the combined form of Radha and Krishna, Gauranga Mahaprabhu. In Braj, you won't find these two combined, because in Braj Leela, there's two bodies. In Braj, the flow of that Leela is like the flow of a river. A river has two embankments. Similarly, the flow of Braj Leela has two embankments, Sambhog and Vipralamba, the embankment of union and the embankment of separation. On the embankment of union, Radha and Krishna relish the mellow of union, and on the embankment of separation, they relish separation. Ujjvala describes something about this Viraha Ras, and Guru Maharaj begins to speak. He just briefly mentions 4 types of separation and 4 types of union. We could spend probably weeks on just one of these types of separation, one of these types of union. He just mentioned the names and didn't explain them really. I'd like to just unpack it a little bit, but not so elaborately. It would take so long. In Ujjvala Nilamani, Rupa Goswami just says, Purva Ragas Tatamana, Prema Vaichityam Ityapi, Prabhasas Katito, Chetikatito, Virpalambas Chatur Vidaha. Virpalambas Chatur Vidaha, that there's 4 types of separation. The first is called Purva Rag. And we see this also, a boy and a girl, that they're hankering up. A girl watches some handsome singer on the television or something, and she falls madly in love with him, with some actor, or vice versa. A boy falls madly in love with some girl. They've not met, but he feels some separation. Of course, this is a perverted reflection. It's not very nice, actually. But in the spiritual sense, sometimes Radharani and Krishna, they've heard about each other. Or as Rupa Goswami describes in Ujjvala Nilamani, in Vidagda Madhav, thank you. My brain's not working very good. Sometimes Srimati Radharani, at one point, she wanted to commit suicide. And Lalita was horrified. What's wrong? She said, I'm not a chaste woman. How can I live? I'm in love with 3 different men. It's very bad. Mm-hmm. Who are these 3 different men? One is the son of Nanda Maharaj, who's named Krishna. I'm madly in love. I've just heard about him. And the second one is this boy in this painting that Chitra Saki made. And he's such a cheeky boy, such a mischievous boy. Although it's a painting, sometimes a painting, he winks at me. He's a very cheeky person. And the third is some boy who plays on the flute. And when I hear the sound of that flute, I go mad. So better I kill myself because I'm in love with 3 different boys. And Lalita says, Hare Radha, it's the same boy. That picture that Chitrasaki made, that's the son of Nanda Maharaj. And it's Krishna, the son of Nanda Maharaj, who's playing that flute. So that's Purva Rag. Radha and Krishna haven't directly met. Krishna, similarly, he's hearing about Radharani and her qualities, and he's feeling so much hankering to be able to meet with her. And he's feeling separation, even though they haven't met. Naranjan Maharaj, I think, was commenting recently in Krishna Kun that this Purva Rag is something we can aspire for, something in this life. Through our Gurudeva, we're meeting with Krishna in the form of the holy name, in the form of Krishna service, in the form of deity worship, but we haven't directly met. So we can aspire for a very high thing, to have some feelings of separation, even though we haven't met. It's Purva Rag. Man is the next type. Man means sulkiness. You'll be interested to hear about this one. There's 2 types of man, according to Rupa Goswami and Ujjvala Nilamani, Hoitaki and Ahoitaki man. Hoitaki man means when the wife or the beloved gets angry because the husband or the lover did some bad thing. He was talking for too long to some young girl, or he came really late, he didn't show up, he didn't call you or something, and you have a right to be angry. Krishna shows up to meet with Radharani, he's got lipstick on his face. And Radharani is you're so shameless. You're coming late. And not only that, you could have at least taken a bath before you came here. You got lipstick on your face from some other woman. This is very, very bad. So that's Hoitakiman. Radharani has a good reason for it. Ahoitakiman means when the woman becomes angry for no reason, the husband. And that also happens sometimes too, isn't it, Prabhuji? She just becomes angry just for no reason whatsoever. Krishna Balaram Prabhu, you can probably tell us about this also. I think any married man can. God gave women the right to be angry for no reason, just because they feel like it sometimes, isn't it? He doesn't want to say, it's okay. So that's Hoitaki and Ahoitaki man, two types of man. Huh? And then there's Prema Vaichitya. Prema Vaichitya is an imagined kind of separation. It's astonishing kind of separation. It's when Radha and Krishna together, but they're feeling separation. In the book, we compiled and printed Mathura Meets Brindavan. The last chapter is called Krishna Never Leaves Brindavan. It's Guru Maharaj's kind of summary description of Lalita Madhav of Rupa Goswami. And boy, it's really hard to describe this in 1 minute, but you know Lalita Madhav Prabhu, you've read? It's a really good book. It's the best. It's my very favorite. Anyway, in Lalita Madhav, Krishna leaves Vrindavan and Radharani commits suicide and dies. She drowns herself in the Jamuna. Of course, Radharani can't die. She has an eternal spiritual body. It's just a pastime. But it's pretty horrific. And all the gopis are kidnapped by the different kings who are held captive by Banasura. And Chandravali becomes known as Rukmini. Same Chandravali. Chandravali, according to Rupa Goswami and Lita Madhav, is Radharani's cousin's sister. And so Krishna, he's in Mathura, and he's heard this terrible news that Radharani's committed suicide and all the gopis are gone. In the meantime, he gets this letter from some representative of Rukmini. Will you please come and rescue me? And it's a long story, but Krishna agrees. And he goes there, and he sees that it's not actually Rukmini, it's actually Chandravali. He thinks, wow, at least Chandravali reminds me of Radharani. She looks something like Radharani. So he kidnaps her. And then Maharaj Bhishmaka, the father of Rukmini, says, look, you're a good guy. We like you. We'd be very happy to have you as a son-in-law, Krishna. But there's one rule. Huh? You can marry our daughter, but you have to make a promise you won't marry any other girl. That's Krishna, who's a lampata, who's always going with so many different girls. You can't do that. Always going with so many different ladies and things. And now he's taking a vow. He agrees, okay, we thought, anyway, Radharani's gone. At least she's here. At least Chandravali's here. Meanwhile, Srimati Radharani, she didn't die, but Jamuna Devi took her to her father, Suryadev. Radharani does Surya Puja every day. So she presented this jewel, which came from the head of Shankachuta, which Krishna just killed. And she gave that to Suryadev. And Suryadev gave Radharani and that and Radharani became known as Satyabhama. And that jewel became known as a Shamantaka jewel. It's kind of a really complicated, far-out story. Huh? So anyway, it's I don't want to go so much into this. It would take us too long. It'd be a whole session by itself. But Satyabhama Radha is there in Dwarka, and when she's introduced to the queen, Rukmini, she doesn't recognize her. And when Rukmini, the little senile mother of Satyajit brings Satyabhama Radha to the palace to give her in charity to Krishna. And when Rukmini sees Satyabhama Radha, she thinks, this is big trouble. If my husband sees this girl, he's going to go nuts over her because she's so beautiful. And so she's trying to figure out what to do. She's being very sweet and polite. Sometimes ladies are like that. They smile and they say things, but actually there's kind of a knife that's sticking at the same time. And she sees that Satyabhama looks like she's a little unhappy. And Rukmini says, my dear girl, what's wrong? And Satyabhama Radha says, well, to tell you the truth, I'm already attached to another man. And I don't want to go with this fellow Dwarkadish. I have my beloved. She's thinking Krishna. She doesn't understand that Dwarkadish is Krishna. And Chandravali said, oh, I understand. It must be very hard for you. Is there something I could do? She said, well, that's so nice of you. Thank you. She said, if I could stay someplace where I didn't even have to see the face of any man, didn't have to hear the name of any man, that would make me very happy. And Chandravali Rukmini said, oh, I think I could arrange that. Just to be nice to you, of course. And so there was a garden called Nava Brindavan, which was built by Vishwakarma for Krishna, because Krishna was missing Brindavan so much. And this has an intimate connection with Jagannath Puri, by the way. It'll take us a long time to explain that, but it's a really wonderful connection. So he made that garden for Krishna. Now, Krishna, like a lot of men, I'm sorry to say, I know men are like, he would tell his wife in the morning, yeah, dear, got to go out to the office, got a few demons to kill today, got to do this. And then Krishna would sneak off with his friend Madhu Mangal, and he would go to Nava Brindavan, the garden. And Rukmini didn't really know where he was going. He was just sneaking off and doing, yeah, he knows. Okay. So in that Nava Brindavan garden, Krishna found one day there was a deity of Krishna that Vishwakarma had made. And he was going in that garden and one day he goes there and he says, hey, Madhu, look, someone's been worshiping this deity. And they've been worshiping with so much love. Madhu says, how can you tell? Look, the tilak is crooked. Because whoever put the tilak on the deity, their hands were shaking. And look, the chandan, the sandalwood paste on the forehead of the deity, it's smearing, it's running down because they were crying tears of love. And then Krishna says, hey, Madhu, listen, somebody's coming. Madhu, take the deity, put the deity in the bushes. And then Krishna stood there like he's the deity. And the deity was a really good deity. It really looked like Krishna. So Krishna's standing there. And then Srimati Radharani comes. And Srimati Radharani, she says, oh, deity of Krishna, you're so wonderful. Please fulfill my desire. And Krishna was astonished because Krishna thought that Radharani wasn't real. Krishna thought, like if you go to Disney World or something, they have these things, what do you call them? I don't know, the lights or something. It's some new technology. You remember Krishna Kun? What's it called? What's that? A hologram. It looks like a person's there, but it's just a hologram thing. It's not really the person. Krishna thought that this Radharani was like a hologram or something. That, wow, Vishwakarma, did really good. And he said that. And Radharani said, wow, the deity talks. and then Radharani says, my dear deity of Krishna, please satisfy my desire. Would you become a living, moving person? So they're together, Radha and Krishna together, but they're feeling separation. And they don't recognize that they're together. So this is called prema vaichitya. It's a long story to explain two words, prema vaichitya. This is the third type of separation, purva raga sata manas. Prema vaichityam itchapi. Prema vaichitya is the third type of separation. Then there's prabhas. Prabhas is also of two types. There's dura prabhas and sudura prabhas. Dura prabhas means when Krishna goes to Kamyavan, or Bilvavan, or some forest, and the gopis can't see him like almost forever, like for 4 hours or 2 or 3 hours or something, and they're feeling so much separation. That's called prabhas. But sudura prabhas, that's dura prabhas. Sudura prabhas is when Krishna goes to Mathura or Dwarka, and the gopis don't know if they're ever going to see him again or not. In the same way we have separation from Gurudeva. Sometimes Gurudeva, he comes to Lithuania, he comes to South Africa, and we see him. And then other times he goes to India, he goes to America, and we don't see him for a few weeks or a few months. That's like Dura Prabhas. But then when Gurudeva leaves this world, that's Sudura Prabhas. And because we don't know, will I ever see him again or not? It's a very poignant thing. So these are 4 types of separation. Similarly, there's 4 types of union. Ujjwal Nilamani also describes this. Mukya Jagrat Avastayam Sambhoga Sa Chaturvidaha Tanpurva Ragato Manat Prabhasa Dvayata Kramat Jatan Sankshipta Sankirna Sampana Ridimato Vidu. So there's Mukya Sambhog. There's primary Sambhog and there's Gona Sambhog. Gona Sambhog is another thing. In a dream or something, there's some union. But primary Sambhog is the four types also. That takes place in Jagrat Avastayam, when someone's awake. Sambhoga Sachatur Vidan. There's four types of that. From Purva Ragato Manat, Prabhasa Dvayato Kramat. Each one of the types of separation has a corresponding type of union. This amazing thing, even we don't understand this, even maybe this is not very relevant for us in our troubled lives, or we're just trying to figure out solutions to our relationship problems or our financial, educational problems or whatever. But just to hear that such things exist, that Rupa Goswami is such a brilliant genius that he's given rasa in such a defined, developed, deep way. So from Purva Rag comes Sankshipta Sambhog. From Man comes Sankirna Sambhog. Prabhas comes Sampanna Sambhog. And from Sudura Prabhas comes Samriman Sambhog. So just to touch on each of those. Sankshipta means something which is very brief, which Sankshipta means something short. And from Purva Rag comes a Sankshipta Sambhog. That just for one moment there's union. Krishna sees Radharani. Krishna's entering into Brindavan at the end of the day with the cows and the cowboys, and Radharani glances at him, and maybe there's some eye-to-eye union. For just one moment, it's Sankshipta, and then it's over. That's Sambhog, and it's some relief from this Purva Rag Sambhog. So these two things are intrinsic qualities in Braj Prem. They have to be there. As my Guru Maharaj expresses in other places, he said that unless there was some separation, union would die an untimely death. Even mundane counselors, they recommend that the husband and wife should have some little bit of separate time every day, go for a walk by yourself, or sometimes you spend a little time apart just to be yourself. And then you can feel a little more separation, a little more appreciation for your partner. So Purva Rag gives birth to Sankshipta Sambhog. Without Purva Rag, you wouldn't have Sankshipta Sambhog. You wouldn't have that type of union. So the two are necessary. Man, from Man comes Sankirna Sambhog. And the word Sankirna means skinny. It's difficult. It's skinny. Man is there when the two types we mentioned, Hoitaki and Ahoitaki Man. So if you can satisfy Radharani's man, her anger, it's a very skinny thing. You just, as we would say in America, you just squeaked by. You just barely got by. She barely forgave you. It happens sometimes, right? That's called Sankirna Sambhog. Just squeaking by, or very skinny Sambhog. Krishna's, I made it somehow. And then from Prabhas, Dura Prabhas is Sampanna Sambhog. And Sampanna means something enriched. Because there's been some distance, and Radharani feels so happy that she hasn't seen Krishna for a few hours. But from Sudura Prabhas comes Samriddhi Man Sambhog. And this Samriddhi Man Sambhog is a very important concept. Samriddhi Man means fully enriched union. Ultimately, to break the chase and go right to the point, Samriddhi Man Sambhog means Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he's a combination of these two things. Of Sudura Prabhas, he's feeling a most intense separation from himself. But because he is Krishna and Radharani's there, it's Samriddhi Man Sambhog. It's fully enriched union. And this is Madhanakya Mahabhav. There's different levels of love. We won't go into that. But the last, there's Snehaman, Pranaya Rag, Ruda Mahabhav, Adi Ruda Mahabhav, Madhanakya Mahabhav. Madhanakya Mahabhav is the last limit of ecstatic love. And Srimati Radharani is Madhanakya Mahabhava Mayi. She's the embodiment of that Madhanaki Mahabhav. And Madhanaki Mahabhav is when both union and separation are together. And we see this in Gauranga Mahaprabhu, especially in Jagannath Puri. Sometimes he's a combined form of Radha and Krishna, but then he's having a vision and he sees Krishna and there's union there, but then Krishna disappears in the forest and he starts crying in separation. But both things are there. This is Gaura Lila. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, in his purport in Madhya Lila, chapter 23, text 62, he quotes a verse which I'm not sure where it's from. I don't think it's from Ujjwal Nilamani, but it defines what is sambhog. Darshana linganadinam anukulyan nisevaya yona ulasam arohan bhava sambhoga iryate. That when they're meeting and they're embracing a lingana, that meeting each other and embracing, they're bringing about the happiness of the lover and the beloved. So when that stage, yuna ulasamaroha bhava sambhoga irite, when it becomes increasingly jubilant, and that's called sambhog. And we mentioned that sambhog is of 4 different types. We spoke a little something about that. I won't go so much into that again. But Guru Maharaj, I give you a little look ahead in Embankment of Separation. He, at the end of the chapter about 3 logs of wood.
Radio switch off. Oh, switch off already. The radio switch off. Yeah.
Can you hear me okay? Chaitanya Prabhu?
Prabhu, okay. You got your mic on.
Yeah, somebody should mute their mic, please. I'm just going to go ahead and finish now with this. Read you a little something from the end of the 3 logs of wood story. 3 logs of wood story we'll come to later on. It talks about the origin of the form of Jagannath and the intimate esoteric connection between Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Guru Maharaj says there, that Krishna says, Dharu Brahma Murti Nitya Prakatita. I'll assume this eternal form, this Nitya Prakatita, this Murti Nitya, this eternal form known as Daru Brahma, from this wooden form, which will be carved from neem wood, and eternally I'll reside in Sri Kshetra, Nilachal. And in my form, as Sri Krishna Chaitanya, I'll go there and experience Virahantaka Milan, union after separation. That's also known as Samriddhi Man Sambhog. Everybody likes love movies and love stories and things. When a boy and a girl have been separated for so long, or even sometimes we see that the girl thinks the boy died, or vice versa, both of them, and then somehow they found out they're still alive and they meet. And what a joyous, loving meeting they have at that time. That's Samriddhi Man Sambhog. It's fully enriched union. And that can only take place because there's been Sudara Prabhas. There's been very intense separation. So I would like to suggest another big subject, which we've been giving class on every Tuesday morning in Jagannath Puri on meeting in Kurukshetra, and where we just finished session number 100 of that series. And part of our thesis is that this discussion about Krishna's leaving Brindavan is one of the most important subjects in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. It's kind of a basic point, which we'll find built upon in different ways throughout the Goswami literatures, and indeed in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself. And it's a great mystery. How is it that Krishna loves the gopis and loves Radharani so much, but he just leaves them? And he doesn't come back. Or does he come back? That's another question. But it seems that he doesn't come back. How do we understand this? So our Goswamis are the first ones to really begin writing about that. In Brihad Bhagavatamrita, Sanatana Goswami describes that in Dwarka, Krishna's crying in separation from Radharani, feeling, missing her so much. And we hear something about the mood of Krishna in that way. So that's a very important subject matter in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. So this is Sudara Prabhas, the most intense type of separation. It's also known as Dwarka or Mathura Prabhas. When Krishna left Vrindavan, and the gopis don't know, are they ever going to see him again or not? Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, in one commentary in Sarta Darshini in the 46th chapter of the 10th canto, explains, he says that the reason why, he says, you may ask, why did Krishna leave the gopis? Is there something wrong with their love? And he's giving darshan every day to the residents in Dwarka. Obviously, he loves them more, isn't it? No. He loves the gopis more. But to show the glory of the gopis' love, because he doesn't know how to reciprocate with them. He says, Naparyeham niravadyasam yujam. I don't know how to repay my debt to you. The only way he can do that, yapratyatu sadhana. Krishna says that let your own activities be your glory. So he shines a light on the love of the gopis, and he does that by leaving them, because in that separation, their ecstasies, their feelings increase so much. And Vishwanath gives an explanation. Just as a goldsmith applies heat to gold to melt it, to show the purity of the gold, to see maybe there's a little bit of iron or some other alloy or something mixed in with the gold. So if you melt it, you can see how pure it is. So Krishna melted the heart of the gopis by applying Vipalamba Agni, or the fire of separation. He melted their hearts, by which everyone could see the purity of their love. So that's Sudura Prabhas. And to reciprocate with that, because there's two embankments of the river of love, and that Sudura Prabhas has to have Samriddhi Man Sambhog. So what is the Samriddhi Man Sambhog, the fully enriched union after Sudura Prabhas, after Krishna leaves from Mathura Dwarka? Well, there's a few descriptions, little vague, little cryptic. In the Bhagavatam, it says that the residents of Dwarka, in one place, they tell Krishna, whenever you go back to Brindavan or Mathura, we miss you so much. And our acharyas comment on them. Just see, Krishna was returning sometimes to Brindavan. In Padma Purana, there's a little mention of Krishna returning to Brindavan. In Bhakti Ratnakar, there's a little mention of it, but not so much. And it's more really a hidden thing. Because the real main way that this Sudura Prabhas is reciprocated, because again, remember that these four types of separation, they have an inherent connection with four types of union. And you can't have one without the other. Just like if you have a river with one side, it has to have another side also. So the Sudura Prabhas, Krishna leaving Vrindavan, which who could understand that? How Krishna loves the Brijbasis so much, but he leaves them. That's a great mystery in Krishna Lila, which our Goswamis have written about extensively in so many of their literatures and explained, because indirectly they're describing Gaura Lila. Because that Sudura Prabhas means Samriddhi Man Sambhog, fully enriched union, which we don't see in Krishna Lila, except in some little hints in Padma Purana or in Bhagavatam that Krishna returns sometime, but we don't really hear about it. But we do hear about it in the writings of Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami and others who've described Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's the embodiment of union. He's both Radha and Krishna together. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna Nahi Anya. But he's paradoxical because there's two opposites in one container. There's both union and separation. Because Mahaprabhu is in the mood of separation, predominant, but at the same time, he is Krishna. He's feeling separation from himself, but hello, Krishna's right there with you. And Radharani's there. The two of them are combined together. So Guru Maharaj says, in my form is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, I'll go there and experience Virahantaka Milan, union after separation. So this is something of embankment of separation. I want to stop there, and I want to ask the devotees if anybody has any reflections or comments or anything. It's a little complicated how I'm going to do this at this point, because I've got this mic here. If I ask for comments from you guys online, then the devotees who are here in the room won't be able to hear you. And I'd like them to be able to hear you. So I'm going to unplug the mic. But then if I make comments, you're going to be stuck with my microphone on the computer, which is not so good. So I'm going to unplug right now. Can you hear me okay, Chaitanya Prabhu? Mm-hmm. Yeah? Okay, good. Lolita, anything you want to share today? Sometimes that's what happens when you're online. somebody goes to the bathroom or they're eating or something, they just leave their thing there. So I don't know if she's there or not. Vera and Prabhu, are you there? We lost Mukunda. Mukunda's there. Vera, do you want to share anything?
Sure. Hare Krishna, Madhavan and Prabhu. Yeah, that was quite deep. This was actually quite sweet. Not much comments. I think the only thing that came to mind when you were talking about Prema Vaichitya, I was just remembering the time when I was in Brindavan, and I can't remember, who it was with, whether it was Dinabandhu Prabhu or Radhanath Maharaj, but when we visited Prem Sarovar, and when you mentioned Prema Vaichitya, sorry, let me get that right again. It's Prema Vaichitya. Yeah, then that pastime came to mind. So, and how even though Srimati Radharani was right there with Krishna, but the fact that, when Madhumangal had chased that bumblebee away, and, when he exclaimed that he chased Madhu away, that Radharani, she thought Krishna was gone, and yet he was right there. And so that was a very sweet pastime. And, it was actually Radhanath Swami, and just the way he explained it, it was so moving, and it was so nice to, in March, we were sitting right there by Prem Sarovar, and March explained it pastime. So that was the one thing that came to mind that I really appreciated.
Can you hear me okay? I'm speaking right now?
Yes.
Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
maybe not as good. Prem Sarovar is a very important place in Gaur Leela. At Prem Sarovar, as you're telling the story, Radharani is sitting on Krishna's lap. There's a bumblebee buzzing her face, thinking her face is a lotus flower. And Madhu Mangal was there as a Priyanama Saka, and very bravely he took a stick and drove the bumblebee away. And very proudly he said, Madhusudan is gone, the bumblebee. And she began to cry. And she's feeling separation from Krishna. She's sitting on Krishna's lap. Madhu Mangal said, Madhusudan is gone, and she's thinking that means Krishna's gone. She's sitting on his lap. There's a reason why they call her Pagalini Radha. She's a mad woman. And she begins crying. Krishna sees her mood, and he starts crying, and feeling separation from Radha. And the combined tears of the divine couple form this kund called Prem Sarovar near Varsana. So some of our acharyas have described that it was at that point that Krishna especially was looking at Radharani, and he realized that her love is so contradictory, so extraordinary, that when there's union, she feels separation, and when there's separation, she feels union. So I should leave Vrindavan and bring Radharani to some higher state of ecstasy. So that's the story Brain Prabhu was mentioning. Lalita, are you back? Okay. Mukunda Prabhu, do you want to share anything?
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. You spoke in the beginning about Gaura Tattva, You said it's the highest, most esoteric philosophy. And then, in light of that, you also spoke about Bhakti Naipunya, the last limit of Bhakti. And you mentioned that this is the difference between Krishna and Mahaprabhu, is that Mahaprabhu has this last limit of Bhakti. So, two things. One thing is a bit of a doubt that's come to my mind here. It's simply because of my ignorance. But it tells me that here is something that Mahaprabhu has that even Krishna doesn't have. So who is Bhagavan here? Because, Bhagavan means someone who has everything, and it also tells me something else that, it tells me that, this whole thing about this Mahaprabhu is so deep, it's so special, that it's really esoteric. It's the most highest esoteric philosophy one can ever imbibe. So that's one thing. And the other thing is, you spoke about the ripened mango, this ripened mango with fragrance. And it's a courtesy, and I'm quite hungry anyway. But I think in future, whenever I see a mango or eat a mango, I'm going to have a completely different mindset of what a mango really is. So thank you for that, Prabhu. It was quite a deep session. But if you can just
So go ahead.
no, go ahead. I was just going to say that in future, when I ever have a mango, I'm going to have a really different impression about it.
So what is the difference between a green mango and a ripe mango? Well, the color is a difference, taste is a difference, and the fragrance is a difference. The green mango is kind of tart; it's not fully satisfying. It doesn't taste as sweet and nice as a ripe mango. So similarly, Krishna Lila, when there's two different forms, it's not as sweet as Gora Lila. And that fragrance, that subtle fragrance is not there. That topmost fragrance of rasa. So yeah, it's a wonderful thing, Gora Lila. Try to understand that.
Very beautiful, Prabhu. Thank you.
Krishna Balaram Prabhu, are you still there?
We are Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Can we see you? There you are.
Yes, we are sitting in the temple room in one of our temples in Johannesburg.
Hare Krishna, nice to see you guys.
Class was really nice. I really appreciated it. What we did. We actually here with Shyam Mohan and his wife, and there's 4 of us here. The one point I really liked was, I think you mentioned Niranjan Maharaj said, we can experience that form of separation. Was it Purvarag? Where we are currently. And I appreciated that point. I don't know if I'm correct in my recollection.
Yeah, that's correct. That's how Maharaj put it. It's a very hopeful thing for us. Otherwise, how can you experience separation from someone you've never met? It's just theoretical. It's just a mental thing. And sometimes devotees, I want to have Krishna, but really it's just some sentiment. But when you see Krishna, then you can begin to feel separation.
Yeah, and what I was intrigued about, is all of these different. I mean, you said there's four forms of separation and then 4 of union. And I was thinking, it's so deep, this philosophy. It's so nice. It's relishable on so many levels. But the other point that I was thinking is, here's the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his consort, who are experiencing these, I don't know if you call it emotions, but they're experiencing this. And, the assumption is that they know everything. Krishna is all knowing. But then they are having these relishable exchanges, which, almost means there's a level of not knowing. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can help me through that, Prabhu?
Yeah, well, I was just reflecting when you were speaking this, that we're personalists. But what does it mean that we're personalists? Sometimes it means that God has a form. And you don't understand that God has a form. Don't stop with the form. There's also the guna, there's also the qualities, there's also the lila, there's also the emotions, the rasa, and so many things. Our concept of personalism is so very, very deep. Rupa Goswami they're not just talking that God has a form, who's Krishna, plays a flute, is blackish, but what are his emotions, what are his feelings, what are the exchanges between him and his devotees. Otherwise, it's not really personal, is it? It's something shallow. So I don't know if that helps you or not, you thought.
It does, Prabhu. It's I'm so grateful, and I keep saying this. And we're having this chat with Chaitanya Prabhu and Mukunda Prabhu and Viren last few days, and some extending into last week. And we were just saying just how much we appreciate being in your association and being able to be taken on this journey. So thank you so much.
Yeah, I was thinking of you and Nandarani just yesterday because I got a very beautiful surprise message from Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj. And I was hoping to see him here at Lithuania because usually he comes. We're here for the Baltic Summer Festival. And usually Maharaj is here for that. This year he's not, probably because of his health, I guess. And anyway, Maharaj sent me a little video message. And I was just remembering you guys. And it would be so nice if Maharaj was here. You guys would have to be here also. Nandarani, is Krishna Balankar being okay?
So far, Prabhu, there is a bit of man at times, I have to admit. But no,
But if there's no man, if there's no man, there's no fun. If there's no man, there's no fun. There has to be a little sulkiness, and the husband has to win her over by giving her some sweets or doing something nice. And then it's very, very nice.
Prabhu, her thinking is if there's no man, there's no praman.
Are you still there? Nandarani, you guys, your
Yes.
picture froze.
No,
You still there?
here.
Can you hear us? Can you hear us, Prabhu?
Hare Krishna.
Hello? Chaitanya Prabhu, can you hear us?
Yeah, I was just going to say,
Yeah,
yeah, we
is
can
that-
hear you clearly.
It's my
I can
place.
hear you. Nandarani, do you? Yeah, I just see your picture's frozen, that's why. Do you have some thing you want to share, Nandarani?
Yes, Prabhu. At some point in the class,
Yeah.
I really was hanging on to those 4 types of separation. And then you were going into the associated form of union. And somewhere halfway through the union, I kind of lost it, not because I think I just lost the ability to focus, and it became so nuanced and so like almost complex for my mind to handle. And at that point, I actually felt really small, and I thought that's a nice feeling when you realize that there's just such like gradations to the philosophy and nuances and things like that. So that was nice. Prabhu, I had this question. I don't know if it's been asked already, but because we were walking for a little bit and we lost a part of the class. But if there's no difference between Krishna and Gauranga, yet I think the words were Gauranga has something that's added to him, does that mean, and I know it might be a controversial topic, does it mean that Gauranga is a higher form than Krishna?
The Gaudiya Vaishnavas, they definitely say that. And that's why my Gurumaras are saying that even if Krishna and Radha are there, Rabindranath Das Goswami says this, Sri Bhaktisiddhanta says this, I won't go there unless Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there. And we don't consider the mellow, the rasa, to be fully ripe unless Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is there.
Thank you. I mean, if I had to choose a mango, Prabhu, I would choose a ripe mango. And then the other question I had is, I'd like to at some point understand Gadadhar in all of this. What is his
Gadadhar
position?
is a very secret tattva. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appears in the Purnima, in the full moon. But Gadadhar appears in the Amavasya, the dark moon. And Gaudiya Vaishnavas sometimes say that because the Amavasya means Purnima, Purnima means full. Purnima means the full moon. Amavasya is the empty moon. And some of us said if someone's born in the Amavasya, they don't have many qualities. And so some Vaishnavas say because after Krishna entered into the heart of Radharani and stole her love, Rupa Goswami describes in his Vidya Chaitanya Ashtakam, Rasastamam Hita, that Krishna entered into Radharani's heart and stole that love. What's left after he stole that, that's Gadadhar Pandit. So, wow, that's a very esoteric thing. What is not just the personality and qualities of Gadadhar, but what is the role of Gadadhar Pandit in Gaura Leela? To just touch on that very briefly, and if you guys, when you come to Puri next time, maybe we can speak about some of this with you. when we go to Tota Gopi, that's one topic we like to speak on. I generally don't speak so much on this because it's a very difficult topic for most devotees to understand. And it's something confidential. Why is it confidential? Because Gadadhar Pandit is taking a subordinate role in Gaura Leela. He's an assisting role. The main role, the main person on the stage is Gauranga Mahaprabhu. He's relishing Radha Bhav. Gadadhar Pandit is assisting that because when, just like if we do a drama, in the drama we do a drama about the life of Krishna Balaram Prabhu. And I'm playing Krishna Balaram. I may go to Krishna Balaram Prabhu and say, Prabhu, what is your inner bhav? Tell me so I can portray it correctly. And Krishna Balaram Prabhu will probably hang his head down and say, I don't have any bhav. Most Vaishnavas will say that. So if I really want to understand him, I need to go to someone who's so close to him that maybe that person understands him better than he himself. Sometimes we have some friends who are so close, they know us better than we know ourselves. So in the case of Srimati Radharani, that's Lalita and Vishaka. So they come in Gaura Leela as Sri Damodar and Roy Ramananda, and they're advising, so to speak, they're doing bhajan, but their bhajan is for the pleasure of Mahaprabhu, to help Mahaprabhu understand the emotions of Radha. And therefore, they're singing Karnamanda of Government of Thakur, they're singing songs of Vidyapati and Chandidas, and like that. All these songs which reflect the expressions of the feelings of Radharani, especially in separation. So then what is the role of Gadadhar Pandit in all that? Well, Gadadhar was Radha, but he got Radha. Rasastomam hit. Krishna entered into Radharani's heart and stole that love. But Gadadhar has a role, just if we say that the Gambhira is the stage in this drama. And when you have a stage, you have a curtain off to the side. And that curtain is Chatak Parda in Jagannath Puri. And on the other side of the curtain, just like if we do a drama and I'm playing Krishna Balaram Prabhu, you may be on the other side of the curtain, whispering to me, have more emotion. Now you should start crying. Now you should be. He'll give me guidance how to understand his own feelings. So that's Gadadhar Pandit. He's on the other side of the curtain of Chatak Parda, and he's giving instructions to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How? By reciting Srimad Bhagavatam with Mahaprabhu. And Mahaprabhu is going every day to hear Bhagavatam from Gadadhar Pandit. What is the necessity of that? He can hear Bhagavatam from so many devotees. But he wants to, because Prema Moyi Bhagavata, Krishna Rishi Anga, Chaitanya Bhagavata says that the Bhagavatam is Krishna's body, but it's Prema Moyi, it's full of Krishna prema. It's a Bhava Grantha. It's a literature which is full of Bhav. It's a literature which can only be understood by Bhav. So, and then that Bhagavatam is important because that's the literature, and especially the 47th chapter, the 10th canto, which Mahaprabhu is absorbed in. That's the Brahma Gita. Mahaprabhu is absorbed in Jagannath Puri. Those are the height of Radharani's feelings of separation. He's hearing that thing so that he can understand. The Bhagavatam, in that sense, is kind of a handbook. It's both a handbook for us about Krishna Nam, but it's a handbook also for Krishna himself to understand the feelings of the gopis and the Brajvasis. So he's hearing from Gadadhar Pandit. Gadadhar has that function. That's just touching on it a little bit. There's a lot more that can be said about Gadadhar Pandit. It's a very esoteric topic. Is that okay, Nandalani?
Thank you, Guru. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. And Chaitanya Prabhu, did somebody else say with you?
Yeah, Shama
no.
Prabhu.
Shama Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Any reflections from yourself, Prabhuji?
Yeah, Prabhu, I haven't been following the class properly because we're in the car and then we're walking and all of that. But to the best extent, I mean, I got to listen to, what's been spoken about. Next week, I'll give you some reflections. That's okay.
It's a kind of strange union that we have, just like Krishna left Brindavan, and there's these great feelings of separation. So we're also feeling separation because of COVID. The devotees all over the world. And just like there's this strange kind of meaning, Krishna appears in the heart of Radharani, and it comes to them in Spurti, it comes in some revelation. So we have Zoom. And so there's a strange kind of, but it's really strange because it's not really appropriate. You can't give little Krishna a hug, and you can't take prasadam. It's really important. Thank you. Chaitanya Prabhu, do you have anything you want to comment?
Probably the only thing that sprung to mind, which was actually just relishing some of the sweetness when you're talking about Radharani and her mentioning the three lovers, and you're depicting, seeing Krishna and the picture of Krishna, etc. And I was just kind of reflecting on, Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's the descriptions of Krishna, and they go into quite a bit of depth of describing him, particularly in relationship to the moon. Face like the moon, the cheeks are like the moon, fingernails like the moon, etc., etc. And I was just wondering, Radharani is looking at these as three lovers. When she looks at these different impressions of Krishna, so to speak, or different versions of Krishna, she almost sees them as different personalities or different elements that it's so attractive in so many ways. So I was just thinking about that and what she might have been going through while looking at Krishna in those different forms.
One thing that it says to us to help us understand the mood of Radharani, that her love for Krishna manifests in the senses. Just like our love for Maya, our attachment for Maya resides in the senses also. And each one of Radharani's senses becomes so intensely attached to Krishna in a different way that sense just becomes overwhelming. Just like if you become really, really hungry, you just can't, somebody wants to talk to you, Prabhu, I want to have this lunch. I don't want to talk to them, I want to eat. We want to go to the bathroom. You can't talk to them. Get out of my way, I'm going to the bathroom. My body's pushing me right now, I have to do this. And your whole consciousness is just focused on that one thing. So this is a perverted reflection of Srimati Radharani. And her senses become so overwhelmed. And Rupa Goswami and Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describe it as kind of like a battlefield sometimes. Each one of the senses, because the sense of the ears become so attached to the sound of Krishna's flute, where the eyes become so attached to the form of Krishna, and the tongue becomes so attached to tasting the remnants of Krishna's food. Each one of the senses is just so overriding, so overwhelming. It just wants to take control. But the other senses are also, it says, like a battle going on. And these are the senses of Srimati Radharani. This is what causes us Asaptikara Bhava, different symptoms of ecstasy. Is that okay, Chaitanya Prabhu?
No, it's quite amazing. I mean, when you're talking about like the senses are so absorbed in that, and it's probably like bursting at the seams, that type of sensation that you can kind of get to feel about it. It's just mystical and amazing and relishable all at the same time. Probably. It's amazing.
And for us, again, we're hearing about all these things, and it's theoretical. Yes, we should remember it's theoretical. And understanding that it's just theoretical, we feel some pain in our heart. And when we begin to feel this purgatory. Oh, Krishna, why I can't know you, why I can't appreciate you, and hear about the love resonance of Vrindavan, how intense it is, and how much love they feel for him, and how Radharani's senses are all completely, each sense is completely absorbed, demanding attention. And then we think, oh my God, my senses, oh my God, they're just wanting to watch television and eat things and drink things and hear music and all kinds of nonsense things. And I'm so very, very far away. So for us, it's theoretical, but it's important. It was like Nandarani was commenting that for her, it's kind of overwhelming hearing all this. And it reminded me of when I was hearing classes from my Guru Maharaj in Bhubaneswar times, and he would be speaking some of these topics, and we would just be like, oh my God. And I remember sitting there one day and feeling like it's like a window open to the spiritual world, and it's rays of the sun from the spiritual world are coming through the window and falling down on me. And I didn't even understand such topics could exist. and much less hear somebody speaking about it, not only with philosophical familiarity and understanding, but from the heart in such a very, very deep way. And it was just completely mind-blowing. And what I walked away with, it was very confusing because I'm used to being a student. I'm used to going to school and taking notes and learning something. But this was a completely different experience. This is something that I couldn't understand, that I couldn't take notes on. I couldn't even understand all the technical phrases, but it was doing something to me. It was affecting me. And so that's the nature of these pastimes. We sometimes tell the story I heard from one of our friends in the Gaudiya Math. There was one devotee in the Gaudiya Math who became severely sick. And no matter what he would eat, he would vomit everything out. It would come out together in loose motions. He couldn't keep anything in his body, even he was dying. They took him to an Ayurvedic doctor. The doctor took his pulse and told him, give him ghee. And they said, he can't digest water. And you want to give him ghee. That's crazy. Give him ghee. So they gave him ghee, and then what happened, he couldn't keep it in his body. He vomited out, it came out of it, but the ghee lined the wall of his stomach. And then from that, then he was able to start taking some things. So in a similar way, we hear these subjects and we can't digest it. Because we're ready to go. But if it coats our stomach a little bit, and then we're able to start hearing some more of these things. And it has a benefit that we know, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes in some of his writings, that one of the anarthas is to not know tattva vibrahma, to not know what is tattva, to understand what is the goal. Sometimes devotees, they don't know. They think, well, maybe I'd like to go to Ayodhya. Ramachandra is pretty cool. Maybe I'll become a monkey. Maybe I'll become a peacock and a kunta or do this or that. And yeah, Guru is really cool, so I like Guru. Maybe devotees have so many speculations. So we should know Sri Radha Govinda Prema Sarvadana Vasis, Prabhupada taught us in Tulsi Prayers. This is our goal, to drown in the ocean of love for Radha and Krishna. So we should hear about these subjects. And even though it's theoretical, but still then we begin to understand something in the direction we want to go. Is that okay, Chaitanya Prabhu? It's nice seeing you, Prabhu.
Yes, thanks so much, bro.
So just a little note, I'm going to ask all the devotees in the room if anybody here has any reflections you can share. Krishna Prabhu had something earlier that we can share. Otherwise, I just want to make a little mention that I'm confused how we're going to do this as we're traveling. We can continue these classes. We were traveling for like 10 years, constantly going to different places, including South Africa, and giving classes, and I wasn't doing anything online. And then COVID came, and we started, we had 3 classes we're doing online. We have a few groups that we're working with, and I don't want to give up those groups, those sessions, but now all of a sudden we're traveling, and our schedule changes, and we're different places and things, so we'll just see how it goes. But right now, it's just fun speaking. I'll just keep everybody informed. We can discuss it. Anybody here in the room have any reflections on it? Okay, Krishna, I'm going to repeat what you say. So next Sunday, what? Next Sunday we're going to be in Riga. Yeah, so I don't know how it's going to work. I don't think it will. Maybe that time, so maybe we can figure something else out before we go. Because everything is, I'd like to continue this. Because when you have a group, it's really powerful that you need to meet together on a regular basis, and at least once a week. That's pretty much the minimum. Anybody else with any reflections here? I'm going to turn the camera. Yeah. You got to speak really loud, then. I don't know if they really hear you or not. Go ahead. Can you hear him?
No, it was very faint, bro.
Yeah, I thought so. Maybe that's the problem. So he was just saying that he's expressing in a very sweet way that he's a newcomer and he feels like an outside person to the Sangha, and he's a lot of new concepts and things to him. That's what I want to say. That's sweet. There's a benefit. We want to have a group. But when you have a group, sometimes somebody else wants to join it, right? And then it can be problematic because it's not as sweet. Right? You have a whole lot of people coming. So the solution is called guests. And when you have a guest come, you treat a guest with so much like a special person. And it's very, very sweet thing. And the idea of a guest is that we love you, but you're not actually really totally part of things here. But you're really special and you're taking care of you. So let's do what we can do today. Anybody else have anything? Krishna, I'm going to spin it around so they can see you, and I'm going to repeat what you say, okay? Just tolerate me.
I just want to ask you a question. The right mango,
She wants to ask a question about the ripe mango of Mahaprabhu.
you mentioned that there is a difference between green mango and white mango.
Yeah, the difference between the green and the ripe mango and color,
Taste and
color, taste, and fragrance.
And I want to ask you that. And the color is obvious. But the taste and the fragrance,
Okay. Just flip this back a little. Sorry for being such a drama. You want to do that? You probably have to tilt it. So there's a difference in the relishment, in the taste of that mellow. And this taste is even sweeter because in this taste, it's fully enriched because there's both union and separation in Gurudeva. So it gives the best taste. Both things are together. Whereas in Krishna Lila, we don't have that. Krishna Lila means milan, means union. Vrindavana Prutiga Padikam Nagachati. Krishna never takes one step outside of Vrindavan. But in Gaura Lila, we're tasting both of these things at the same time. We're tasting union and separation. We're tasting the mood of Radha and Krishna together. We're tasting the mood of Radha, Krishna, and Gauranga together. So it's a very, very sweet taste. And sweeter taste even than Krishna did. If we know how to taste, if we know where to get the right fruit. Because also there's a whole science of that. If you go to a tree, you may pick a mango if you don't know what's a good mango and what's not. You may get a green mango, and it doesn't mean how the mangoes are not nice. Everybody says mangoes are very nice, but I tried a mango, it's very bitter. Because you have a green one. Or you go to the wrong tree and you take a fruit and it's full of worms. You know, these are terrible fruits, so they have all these creatures living inside of them. I don't like this. You have to know where to get the fruit. Also, you have to go to the right personality. Is that okay, Krishna? The fragrance. Well, we say that this fragrance, that's the rasa, and the fragrance indicates oftentimes the word gandha is used almost synonymously in Sanskrit literature with something subtle. We would say there's not even the slightest fragrance. Mahaprabhu says, I don't even have the slightest fragrance of love. So that means something very, very subtle. And Gaura Lila is the most subtle. Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Gauratat is the most subtle because Radharani's mood is there. But there's a hidden form. Radharani, we don't see her directly, we don't see Krishna directly, but this subtle fragrance is coming in. We can perceive. That would be understanding. Okay, anybody else here? I'm going to repeat what you say, so go to the slow. And you can zoom in on it too if you want. Right, so she's asking, how can I feel separation from Krishna for the meeting?
Oh, what should I think or feel for him?
Yeah, so she's a very good question. Better. How can I have feelings for Krishna? I've never met him. I haven't seen him. My Guru Maharaj once was asked by a devotee, he said, Maharaj, you say that we should cry for Krishna, but I've never met Krishna. It's just theoretical. How can we cry for Krishna? And Guru Maharaj gave such a profound answer. He said, after I leave this world, then you'll be able to cry. So when we say that Saksha Durit Vinastamasta Shastra, that all the Shastras describe that Gurudeva is Acharya Mam Vijanaya Navamani Takarichari is a direct manifestation of Krishna, that's a very deep statement. It's a multi-level statement. And one of the meanings of it is Tati Krishna Bhaji Kori Guru Sevan. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami describes that. I'm doing my Krishna Bhajan, that's my Guru Seva. So I'm serving Gurudev by chanting Krishna's name. I can't perceive Krishna, Ata Shri Krishna Namadi Nabhavidrayam Indriyai, with my senses, but Sevan Mukhi Jivado, Swayameva Sparatyada. The next line describes that when I do service with my tongue, which hello is one of the senses, which can't perceive Krishna, but when I do service with my tongue, then I see Krishna. What does that mean? That means that I'm serving Gurudev. And therefore Gurudev is a manifestation of Krishna. So I don't know Krishna. I can't feel separation from Krishna, but I feel separation from Gurudev. When he's in India and you're here, we feel separation, or what to speak of when he leaves this world, as I mentioned earlier. So we should understand that if we're doing our bhajan, if our connection to Gurudev is through our bhajan, if our connection to Gurudev is just through our body, I really like Maharaj because he's nice to me, pats me on the head, gives me some prasad and pays attention to me. Then when he's gone, because our relationship with Guru was anartha muktavasta, anartha yuktavasta, it's with anarthas. Our vision of Gurudev is bhogya darshan. We think he's meant to be enjoyed. And we have a crisis of faith. I don't see him now. Where is he now? But when we were seeing Gurudev, that Gurudev is Nam Datta, he's a personality who's giving me the holy name. And that's my connection with him. And I focus my connection with Gurudev on the holy name. Then, when Gurudev's not here, he's still with me. He's with me in his instructions. He's with me in the holy name that I'm chanting. But only now I'm feeling separation at the same time. And that feeling of separation is kind of a postgraduate position in spiritual life. We're being elevated to something which we have no adhikar for, as you're indicating. I don't know Krishna. I can't approach Krishna, but I can approach Gurudev. Is that okay? All right. Now, do you have something? Can you flip it around? I'm going to repeat what you say, so just go little by little.
Actually, I thought the full person after the last interview, but then I realized some thoughts came that how is it that we do not feel Krishna in our lives? But some situations happen and you see the God's presence. Yes, so I thought maybe I can feel God in my life. Let's say Rasa says that how can I feel separation if I don't know, if I didn't meet Krishna, but we meet Krishna, God in life situations, different situations, or this is not Krishna. Something else that we see in our lives, some I don't know, miracles happening, or I don't know if I can express myself.
Let me kind of paraphrase it. I don't know if they probably can't hear you. That she's saying that we may ask, where is Krishna in my life? How is he appearing? And we hear that Krishna is there in the form of the holy name and things, but still Where is Krishna's direct hand in our life? From my humble perspective, I'd like to suggest that the most powerful way that we perceive Krishna's hand and which melts our hearts because we see, because when Krishna appears before us, Krishna comes before you and says, I understand. You've been going through so many problems. Listen, don't worry, it's okay. Everything's, and you just start crying, oh my, he cares so much about me. He came. But Krishna's come in that form, in the form of Gurudeva. And when we cry to Krishna with sincerity, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta says in one article that when we cry out to Krishna, Krishna perceiving our sincerity and our devotion, those two qualities, how sincere we are. When we crawl out to Krishna with sincerity and with devotion, then Krishna, he manifests before us as Guru, as Sadhu. And that's why Sadhu is so important, because he gives us instructions which we accept as being from Krishna because we have faith in him. And if we don't have faith in him, then that's not really Guru. Just like a boy may tell a girl, yeah, you're about as ugly as a dog, but would you marry me? If a boy told you like that, I think you're really ugly, I'm not attractive, but would you marry me? Probably you slap him in the face or tell him, go to hell, go away, right? Because it doesn't really mean anything if he doesn't appreciate your beauty. So similarly, how can we say I have Guru, but I don't have faith in him? It is completely contradictory. Guru means that person that we have strong faith in. And when we're crying and crying to Krishna, I had that personal experience. I had my guru left in ISKCON, and I didn't have faith in anyone for 7 years. And then Krishna gave me a big kick in my personal life. And I was in Los Angeles Temple. I was going every day to Prabhupada's room by myself and just crying and crying. Prabhupada, please help me. I need a guru. I know I need, but I need someone like you. And then it was shortly after that I met my Guru Maharaj. And I just knew Prabhupada sent him. And it was one of the most amazing experiences in my life to have that kind of feeling, that this reciprocation has come. It just blows your mind. That's mystical. We have this word mystical or mysticism in English, which indicates a mysterious connection between something spiritual and something mundane. It's something practical and real. It's not just theoretical. Pratyak Savagamam Dharmyam, Krishna says in the Gita, it has to be practically experienced. That's Gurudeva. He's a manifestation of Krishna for us. Is that okay? Okay. Anybody else with anything here? Otherwise, God, I didn't realize we were really late. Okay, so we'll go ahead and stop there. Thank you all very much. So Chaitanya Prabhu, I'll stay in touch. As Krishna Kun was just pointing out, be in Riga next week, so we definitely won't be able to have a session. Maybe Krishna Kun, we can kind of work on some things together or something, because it's going to be complicated. We're going to be in Hungary then. I'm not sure what our schedule is going to be, but if our schedule is flexible, then we should be able to do it. Not fixed. Yeah. Okay. We're just waiting to hear back from everybody. Okay. Thank you all very much. I really feel very blessed, everybody. We take part in such a wonderful Sangha together. Srila Prabhupada ki, Samaveda Bhakta Binda ki, Gaur Prema Nandi Hari Hari Bo, Vanchakalpadurusha, Kripa Sindhu Vyeva Champatitanam Pavane, Vaishnava Namo Namaha, Nanda Kori Vaishnava Binda